welcome to Milwaukee Music Lessons. My name is Alex Bennett, and in today's video, we are going to be covering the first portion of chord analysis or song analysis, however you want to refer to it. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking all of the previous knowledge that we've talked about. We're combining the major scale, the chords that we've learned, and how the chords are combined with them to take a look at a couple of songs, a couple of pieces, and figure out how do we determine that these songs are built within a major scale, or, you know, what the root notes, what the key is of a particular song. So, you know, before we get started, I want to make sure that, to get the most out of this video, you really need to be up to date with your chords and how they fit in conjunction with the major scale. You should really have them memorize the order of them, understanding what chords are in what positions on the major scale. If you haven't done that, definitely go check out the previous video, checking out, chords and how to build them inside of a major scale. But assuming you know all of that, then we can move on into this video here today. So the first song that we're going to take a look at is Brown Eyed Girl. And I have here a transcription. It's not a perfect transcription, right? But I have here a transcription of Brown Eyed Girl. And what we're really looking for here is we're looking for the chords that are all built into it here, right? We have three chords here. We have a G, a C, and then to a D over here again. And so the question is, if you were going to build a major scale, which of these are the fitting option? And so here's how we're going to look at it, right? What we want to do here is we want to pick a chord. We want to start with a chord, and we want to build the scale off of it. Then we want to add the chords to the notes, and then from there we want to see whether the chords that are available to us match up properly, right? So in this example, right, maybe I had an inkling that C is the chord that starts our major scale. So I could start by building our major scale here. I'm going to cheat a little bit and use our writer tool here. So we have C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. Those are our chords that belong in our C major scale, right? It's the easiest one. There's no sharps and flats inside of this scale. So here we have C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Then after that, we can, provide the chords that go in there. So the first chord in our C major scale, or in any major scale, is always major. The second one is minor. The third one is minor. Fourth is major. Fifth is major. Sixth is minor. Minor. And the seventh one is diminished. And so that would be our C major scale, right? Now, what we want to do here is we want to take a look at the chords that we have for our C major scale, and we want to see whether they line up with the chords inside of the passage. So we start off, is G inside of a C major scale? Yes, it is. C, of course, is inside of a C major scale. D is not, though. Here we have a D minor chord instead. And so that D minor chord, since it doesn't line up, that's a problem for us. So we need to take a look at a different chord instead. So let's throw that one out the window, right? Instead, let's decide that we're going to do a G major chord. So G is our first notes. If we build our G major scale, it's A, B, C, D, E, and F sharp. Those are our seven notes. And then if we build the major scale off of that, the first one is major, second one is minor, third one is minor, fourth one is major, fifth one is major, sixth one is minor, and the seventh chord is diminished. So that would be the chords for our G major scale. So now we need to check and see if these line up. And so we have G as our first one, C fits, and so does D. So that would mean that our chord progression that we have here is in a G major scale. And just to be sure, we're going to look at a few other chords here. The only other chord that shows up in here is an E minor. And sure enough, E minor fits into this progression. So that definitely fits with inside of our G major scale. So yeah, we seem to have found the magic bullet. So what does that mean for us with our chord analysis? Are we done? Now that we figured out this is a G major scale, have we figured out everything there is to learn about this song? Not quite. It's really important, especially in the early stages, that we actually take the time to go through and label and identify what chords are what. It's really good for if you're trying to eventually learn how to do things like transposing, and if you want to understand like relationships between chords, this is really, really helpful and handy. If you ever do any sort of ear training too, they'll really want you to know this type of stuff. So we're just going to go through it, and we're going to do a Roman numeral to identify what each one of these is. So first we have a one chord, because this is G major, like we talked about. So we add a nice little I for one. Then we come over here. This is our 4 chord. So here we add a IV. That's 4 for the Roman numeral. Back to 1. There you go. Not a very pretty one. And then finally a 5 chord that we have here in our progression. So far, so good, right? All right, so we've done our first line here. Let's move down now to the pre-chorus of the song, and we'll examine the rest of these, right? So here we have a C chord, which is our 4 chord, D, which is 5, G is 1, E minor, so here we have a 6 minor. Continuing on down, we have a C for a 4 chord, D is a 5, G is back to 1, and D is back to 5. Okay. So let's see if there's anything else that we can really kind of pick up from here. So there's a few relationships between chords that are worth looking at, and I think the biggest one, the most important one when it comes to major, is the 5 chord. So here, the 5 chord is notorious for wanting to really go back to 1. That's like its primary purpose. It wants to go back to the 1 chord, and so whenever a 5 chord shows up in a progression, we're going to analyze whether or not that note actually resolves or not. So there are 3 types of resolutions. We have an actual resolution, which is when the 1 chord goes, the 5 chord actually goes back to the 1 chord. We have a false resolution, which is when the 5 chord goes back to the 6 chord, the 6 minor, and we have a non-resolution, which is basically when the 5 chord goes to anything else. So in this progression, we have here in the verse, the first time the 5 chord comes around, there's a repeat marker here. So we actually are continuously going back and forth from 1 4 1 5, 1 4 1 5, 1 4 1 5. So when this repeats, the 5 chord does in fact resolve. And so the way that we signify that is we would draw an arrow. And so this arrow is coming back around here and just signifying that we are in fact resolving back to the 1 chord. Okay? Now, on the times that it doesn't repeat, though, we go from the D chord down to the next line, which is the C chord in the pre-chorus. And in this case, this is a non-resolution. So we would signify this also with an arrow, but this time we're going to draw an X through it, signifying there is that it's not doing what it's expected to do or what it's intended to do. So now we got to go look through. Are there any other instances of 5 chords? Sure enough, here, D to G, we have a resolution here. So that's a 5 to 1. And down here, there is also another 5 to 1. That gets a resolution. And then later in the song here, there is a 5 chord one more time. And I don't have it written well here, so I apologize for the people who are going to get on me for not having the proper notation, but this chord does in fact go back up to the 1 chord again later, so this would actually also get an arrow that would eventually resolve back to 1. So here we go. This is a full chord analysis of this song. The only one that we didn't see here was a false resolution, which is when the 5 chord goes back to the 6 minor. And the way that you would signify that on a sheet of paper is you would use like a dotted arrow where the line has dotted grooves to it, and then, you know, the arrow goes over to it like this, and that would be your false resolution. So anyways, this is just part 1 of a chord analysis. We're going to do a part 2 in just a couple of days here, and we will talk about some special instances, some tips and tricks that you can use to try and make your life a little bit easier. I also want to add just a quick disclaimer. I probably should have added this at the beginning of the video, but obviously I'm providing you guys with specific scenarios, specific examples that show that these are major scales. Like I'm giving to you these examples in confidence that the song is a major scale. There will be plenty of songs that are not in major scale, and we just, you know, you might try your best to try and decipher them, and it turns out that they are not in the major scale, or maybe they are in the major scale, but they have some like rule breaking things that are going on, and that's a little bit more advanced as far as the analysis of what we're going to do here. That's something that needs to be gone over in a much more thorough manner, and frankly, you need more time working with the basics. Right now, though, what we're trying to work with is we're trying to work with the things that you see the most common, right? We want to start with the rules, not necessarily the exceptions to those rules. So yeah, this is just the first part. Like I said, look out for part 2 in a few days. If you're watching this on YouTube, please leave me a like and a subscribe. I greatly appreciate it, and all you guys who keep watching these videos. I hope you're enjoying them, and I hope you're getting a lot out of them. But until then, we'll see you guys in the next video.